The opportunity to talk about the RSD. Good morning to you all. My name is Jito Vonolelai. As you can see, I'll be the first speaker today, and I'll hand over the baton to my colleagues. Yep. All right. I will do that exactly. Like any research work, the first issue is, what is the research question? What is the question? So what is the problem here? Well, we are all teachers, and as we struggle with our students to try to help them with their work, assignment, we have all thought about this problem. Very simple question. How can I teach better my students? How can I impart the skills? What are the problem-solving skills that I need to identify clearly and teach, and how do I teach these skills? That is the fundamental question that we all teachers grapple with every day. Can we identify the skills, problem-solving skills? If yes, then how do we teach these skills? Not only to that particular class, but throughout the university, from foundation right up to PhD, in a cohesive, in a systematic, coherent manner. That is the bigger picture. If you can tackle that issue, then in essence, we can impart to our students all the necessary skills that they can use in the workplace and so forth. That's where this project came in, and it was introduced to us by Professor Kelly. Can we find a systematic way, a coherent way to identify problem-solving skills, research skills, and teach these explicitly in a coherent, systematic manner, not only to that classroom, but right across the university, from foundation right up to the PhD level? We came across, under STAR, yes. So it's a project under the STAR. And we found out that there is a framework developed recently by the University of Adelaide. Dr. John Wilson of the Education Department at the University of Adelaide, recently he developed a framework called the Research Skills Development Framework. And he believes that this is the framework, a conceptual framework that can answer the question that I've asked. So beginning 2 years ago, we started looking into this framework. We visited the University of Adelaide. He came to us. We ran workshops. And we decided eventually in 2011 that yes, this is the framework that can answer the question that I've just put forth to you. To move from foundation right up to PhD level, coherent, systematic manner. And we can solve problems like that was raised yesterday by Francis and mentioned this morning by DVC Kelly. So that framework is called the Research Skills Development Framework. It identifies the skills, exact skills that we need to look into, and tells us how we can teach the skills. In short, the framework, you've got a copy there with you. It's a very colorful document. You should have that as part of one of the handouts. As you can see, it can fit in one page. That's the beauty of it, that we don't want to have a framework that is so difficult, clunky, difficult to apply. Can we identify the skills that we can impart to the students to solve their problems? Yes. What are those skills? Very simple. They are right there in the first column. These are the skills that researchers believe after years of research, that these are the skills that are necessary to solve problems. And they are embark and clarify, 1. Number 2, find and generate. Number 3, if a student can evaluate and reflect. Number 4, if they can organize and manage. Number 5, if they can analyze and synthesize. Number 6, if they can communicate and apply the knowledge that they found. These are the 6 skills, 6 fundamental skills that if we can teach explicitly to the students, then we should be assured that we have done our job And at the end of the day, we should be happy that I think that the students have got the skills to face the world. Across the columns, then you can see the different autonomy level, the levels of autonomy, that is. Obviously, the first-year student would have no idea at all about research. So in a kind of directed manner, we should be really teaching them then how to embark and clarify and so forth. And as you move from foundation right up to the PhD level, then we give more autonomy to the students to actually find the information for themselves, actually create the questions for themselves, and answer those questions using several means and so forth, and communicate the outcomes. So that's very simple, the framework. We've got identified to us exactly the skills that we need to teach and how to teach those skills as we move from foundation right up to the university, PhD level, and in fact right up to those who've just started off their research career. What we want to do today is to tell you the beginning of the adventure that Now USP is undertaking, and that is how do we implement this research, the research RSD framework in the university coherently, as I mentioned, and systematically. And we want to make sure that it is not done in any ad hoc manner, because that would create a lot of problems later on. The issue here is systematic, coherent, systematic manner from coherent manner right from foundation right up to the university level, to the PhD level. And so we have started now with the first year, 100 level courses. And we have chosen the core courses that will expose the RSD as much as possible to our students. And I'm happy here today that we've got 4 of my colleagues across the disciplines who have started with the RSD implementation in the courses, and they will talk about the experience. So what is better a tool with respect to transformative pedagogy than the RSD? It will transform, I think, our way we teach in the near future. If not, it's happening right now. And my colleagues will take it on from there, and they will talk about the experiences in implementing the RSD. Thank you all. Okay, I'll call upon Nala to talk about experience. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jito, and good morning to you all. I'm Nala Pitia, and I'm from the School of Management and Public Administration of the Faculty of Business and Economics. All right, this year, 2013, I am the coordinator for MG 101, and this is a foundational course for all the management majors that come under the School of Management and Public Admin. As one of the assessment tasks given to MG 101 student last semester, one of those assessment tasks is the research assignment. And as you can see on the screen, that is the assignment that was given, research assignment that was given to my student last semester. There are 2 options there. They can choose option 1 and option 2. Now, in March, I have attended this RSD framework workshop that was held at Holiday Inn. And that's when I was introduced to this RSD framework. And so after the workshop, I decided that I will develop a assessment framework based on that RSD framework that was introduced in that workshop. So I have worked together with the consultant, and we came up with a RSD assessment rubric, as you can see there on the screen, and this is the rubric that I use to mark my students' assessment or their research work. And I have used that to mark 73 research assignments that my students have submitted. And what I'm here today to share with you is not so much of what is in that rubric, but about my experience. I want to share with you my experience on the implementation of this assessment rubric that is based on the framework that was introduced to us. And I want to share with you, beginning with the benefits that I have seen from the use of this assessment rubric, as well as the challenges that I have experienced. So I will begin with the benefits. All right, the benefits that I have found from using this RSD assessment rubric, the first one is that the assessment rubric has provided a framework that has integrated the testing of more than one learning outcome, which link to more than one university graduate attributes. Previously, whenever I want to assess the learning outcome that links to the attributes, I would take individual attributes and assess them individually. But when I used this RSD assessment rubric, I found that it tested more than one learning outcome that linked to more than one graduate attribute. And secondly, another benefit that I have found with this assessment rubric is that it provides students with more understanding of the scope, the depth of their research work, as well as the level of quality that is expected of their work. Now, let me elaborate on this. All right. Prior to my students going out and do the research work, I developed this assessment rubric, and then I uploaded that on Moodle, and then I have taken some time off the lecture hour, my lecture hour, and I introduced them to these rubrics. And then I explained to them what constitutes a high credit point, what constitutes satisfactory marks, and what constitutes a weak credit point. So they know exactly what should be reflected in their assignment to gain or to earn a good mark. So that I have spent some time to tell them and share with them. And also, another benefit of this assessment rubric that it helps me to mark consistently, as well as it provides a systematic marking. From my experience, I find that using this rubric is more marker-friendly, in the sense that it gives me less time to mark a particular script, and as well as that it is more consistent, and the marking is being fair as well. All right. That is what I found with regard to the benefits. Now, I'm going to share with you challenges. Nothing is easy here. The challenge that I have experienced using this rubric, the first one is probably a personal one. It's with regard to myself understanding the framework and how I could effectively use and apply that. I need to know that. And the reason why I said it's challenge, because previously I would test one graduate rubric only. But when I use this, I find that it tested more than one graduate attributes or the learning outcomes. So the idea now, the challenge now is, how should I effectively integrate the assessment of different learning outcomes that lead to different or more than one graduate attributes? And the second challenge that I have experienced is that how to develop a more comprehensively simple assessment rubric that can be understood and applied by my student. Now, remember, this is 100 level course, and it is made up of, half of it is made up of young students who have come out from high school, and another percentage of people who have been in the workforce for a long time, and they come back to study, and they're being introduced to the university research kind of work. So how can I find the right word to articulate what is expected of them? And how can I effectively integrate, the testing of these different skills that is needed? And also, I find the challenge here is how I applied this assessment rubric to other assignments. And based on this, before I stop, I come up with some suggestions. In fact, I come up with some suggestions. And the first one is revision of the marking rubrics for simplification for both student and staff. And of course, I know the assessment rubric that was posted up earlier need to be revised again to make sure that it is more simple and understood by my student as well as the teaching staff. And the second suggestion I made is, if it is possible to run training workshop at the school level, and the purpose of this training workshop is to bring the teaching staff together, the 100 level, 200 level, and 300 level, and we would look across and see what RSD skills we want to develop in 100 level, 200 level, and 300 level, so that what we teach them in 100 level is the building block that to what they will learn in 200 and 300. So work collaboratively with the other teaching staff. And secondly, the purpose of this training workshop is to train other teaching staff on how to design an effective integrated assessment rubric that is based on the RSD framework, as well as understanding the application of the assessment in other assignments or other assessment work. And not only that, how can we monitor the development of the RSD skills, and not only that, but the development of other graduate attributes that are tested in this framework from 100 level? How can we monitor that on to 200 level and 300 level? And what kind of remedial work or effort can we put in helping students who are lagging behind? So I kind of come up with that, and I hope this will be taken into consideration by people who will be involved in and my school. Thank you so much. I will now invite my other colleague to come up.
Let us take you on a journey through UU 204 Pacific Worlds. As is customary in any Pacific gathering, we begin by acknowledging our genealogy. In an academic context, this is the genealogy of thinking and doing related to the development of UU 204. We acknowledge Professor Vlisoni Hiraniko, who initially devised the course at the University of Hawaii, Dr. Regina Rudrad, who developed it for online learning and introduced it here to USP, Dr. Leilani Kauvaka, Dr. Frank Thomas, who's here in the room, who are its current course coordinators, our wonderful UU 204 team who are going to be presenting after this, and of course the team at the research office, in particular Hina and Dr. Jito, for helping us develop marking rubrics from. So using Dr. Teresia Tewa's The Classroom as Metaphorical Canoe, Cooperative Learning in Pacific Studies, this semester we are currently taking 1,200 students on a journey through our Oceanian worlds. We ask our teaching team and students to imagine our classrooms as various canoes of the Pacific. Our teachers are the navigators. The crew are our students. And each vaka or canoe group have approximately 30 crew, each navigator responsible for facilitating the online learning for 4 vaka groups. That's approximately 120 crew. Just want to give you context for this assessment. These vaka groups are essentially our online classrooms for the semester. So this first written assessment, which you have in front of you, this is what it is, this is what it looks like. It's a diagnostic tool. It's the first in our semester. And it's called the Letter to the Navigator and Vaka Crew. The 2 major benefits for this marking rubric, I'd like to thank Dr. Thomas and also Mrs. Nasarma Lingham for putting this together for us. 2 major benefits is that before RSD, no additional research was required from our students at 200 level. They were restricted to the resources which we provided them. And of course, we always ask our students to draw upon oral histories and our own personal stories. Now, with the RSD, the students discover that much of their oral histories have already been documented. And as supporting evidence to their own stories, these have been good scholarly tests as we acknowledge that there may be many different versions of their stories that already exist. Students now are strongly encouraged to access university library and other scholarly resources about the Pacific, as well as the many sort of resources that are available through the World Wide Web. The big issue for us now is the credibility of resources. How are students assessing the credibility and reliability of the sources that they access? In this first assessment, we get so many Wikipedia references. We even get references that are anonymous, references from tourist sites, which are problematic. But by the end of the semester, we find that students have progressed from this and are actually providing us with really scholarly references at the end, which is great. And before RSD, we had no marking rubrics available or visible to students, and that, we had our own, we developed our own, nothing transparent, nothing visible to students. It was a hidden kind of process. It was a hit and miss affair. Students had no idea how they were being assessed. Now we have a really great rubric. It's not wonderful. We still have issues with it. We still have to refine it and on this process of continuous improvement. But at the moment, it's quite linear. We're very creative people. So what we're doing is providing students with examples on Moodle, model examples from previous semesters. So I'd like to thank Vili Maina Navila, so that students get an idea of how to put this document together. Our phrasing and wording is still too complex. We need to simplify, simplify, simplify. We need to prepare our students more, defrosting the process. RSD is quite complicated. We agree with Naula in the initial, but as it's being unrolled out to 100 level, as they come through UU 114 and 100, they're also being introduced to RSD. More and more of the students are going to be proficient and great scholars by the time they even get to our stage. Connectivity is, as you all know, I don't like to harp on about it in the region, is difficult. Even getting to online library databases here at Lauvala last semester was problematic. But it's been great, and we love RSD. Thank you, Susan. Learning is a process, not a destination or a product. Our online learning classroom is never static. So we're learning from this, and thank the university for giving this to us. I'd like to introduce our next speaker.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Serema from the School of Education, and I coordinate ED 153, which is one of our core courses in that discipline. Research is, just to give you a little bit of background about ED 153, research is an important component of the course already. And as you can see, it is one of the assignments that we give to students is research. And research skills is part of the course book. It's already in the course book. So you can see it's already an important part of the course ED 153, and definitely it is one of the assignments, which is assignment 3 in the course. Just a bit of background about how I normally tackle the research component of this course. I work with the Fale Student Support Learning staff, especially Nisita and Siniva, who run workshops for me. Like you can see here, there is the research question which I gave them last semester. And what I do with what Siniva and Nisita do, they help to unpack the question with the students, and they actually help them to even formulate their questionnaires and things like that. So they are really the ones who are involved, who help me unpack the question with the students. That's in March. Next slide. This is just an example of what they do with my students. Like they ask questions like that during the workshops and so on, just to help the students come up with the ideas about the research question. Just a bit of background about me and the RSD. In March, at the Holiday Inn, it was the first time for me to be exposed to RSD, to learn about RSD. But by the time it was week 3 of the semester, and I had already given out my research assignment and everything, I'd already planned out my work for the semester. And so I thought, okay, what can I do as I came away from the workshop? I was quite impressed with whatever I learned, the new knowledge that I learned from the workshop. And so, but I had 207 students scattered throughout the region, and then I was asking, what can I do to use the new knowledge that I learned from the workshop? And so, what I thought, okay, I would focus on the marking rubrics. That was the only thing I probably could change at that point in time with my markers. And so, whatever I'll share today, I'm sharing purely from the perspective of my own experience as coordinator. With this rubric here. I mentioned that by the time when I went to the workshop, I already had a rubric in my course, and this is my original rubric. It looked like that. I had the basic parts of the research for marking, with the marks allocated and so on and so on. So this was my original rubric, which I wanted to change after the workshop. And so I tried to incorporate the RSD rubric here. As you can see here as an example, I don't really want to go through each of the things in the rubric, but I reorganized and I also made sure that whatever I had in the original rubric was there, but except that I expanded the rubric and it contained more, and I was kind of so excited about it because I realized there were things that were missing in the original rubric was already integrated in this other one, the reorganized one. So this is the one I used. That's also just continuation of that rubric. I just want to do a little bit more on this one. What I observed from using the rubric, it was easier to focus on the phases of the research which indicated the student's performance through the research process. You see, I used the rubric to mark, merely to mark my the student's work. So it was easier for me to see it as a research process because of the way the rubric was done, set up. So I can say that the rubric was performance-based. So as I marked, it was easier for me to connect or disconnect to the report, as it somehow contained the human element of the research. You know, you have to be from the humanities to understand what I'm talking about, I suppose. So you are actually part of you can see that the students actually went through the process of research just by reading their report. That's really what I mean. So you're able to connect and actually understand. You can also tell that a student, you know, has got things from here and there, and that's why I'm talking about disconnection. The other point is redistributed the weighting, right, to reflect the phases of research, and it measured the students' understanding of the research process rather than being carried away with merely the content of what they are writing. Another thing was the important features of the elements of research were clearly spelled out, and it was concise in the rubric. For example, separation of results and discussion. In my first one, I had results and discussions together. In the rubric, I separated this and added communication as one of in the rubric. And the incorporation of marking elements such as literature in the introduction. So these were either missing or they were vague in the original rubric. So it was certainly an improved rubric that I used. The inclusion of such details gave more meaning to the marks at a glance, and they complemented the comments within the script or text. It saved time writing extensive comments as a result with so many hundreds of students, so it saved a lot of time in that way. From a coordinator's perspective, students were generally satisfied, judging from the almost zero rate of complaints about marking. So that's all I really have for you today about my experience with RSD. Thank you. We'll have the next speaker.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shanil Chandra. I'm obviously a chemist, and I coordinate CH101, which is a core course for first-year students majoring in chemistry, environmental studies with chemistry emphasis, as well as marine science. So it's a pretty important course for quite a number of majors in FST. And we can see it in the progressive enrollments from the last couple of years. And this year we had a total of 550 enrollments, and that took us by a shock for a few days. And then we managed to regroup ourselves and work out logistics of offering the course. On Lozala, we had 400 students, and in the region we had about 150. Why these statistics are important is because a core component of our assessment in the course, as is in any chemistry course, is practical based. If you ask anybody perceptions or the perspectives on science, if they are non-science people, they usually tell you science is technical. It is technical. If you ask somebody what chemistry is, they will say chemistry is taking a different colored solution with another and getting another color. And if you get an explosion in between, it's even better. Well, chemistry is not too far from it. But there is more to chemistry than just swirling beakers of different colored solutions. If you have been reading nutritional information on any food items you buy, trust me, there's a good chance it came from the hands of a chemist. So that part of chemistry is what is really the research part. And with the RSD training that the university embarked on this year, we saw a convenient way of trying to use it to enhance and elevate the research profile in our students. So what we did was we chose an experiment that was already there in the course, determining the strength of eggshells by measuring the calcium carbonate content. And I apologize for the slightly woody slide. The reason why this experiment was chosen as a start was because it provides what we call a real-time analysis. Now, if you've been a chemistry student for 5 years, and most students are before they come to university, you're pretty tired of mixing solutions. If you give students a mixture, an environmental sample, such as eggshells, and ask them to analyze it, that makes it exciting for them. Suddenly they've got something to detect, something to analyze that they live with, literally. They see it every day. They don't need to go into a lab to find an eggshell. So what we did was, we wanted to use this experiment, which also tests the chemical method, but gives a real-time analysis experience. And it also imparts a sense of multiple analysis, which is a core component of scientific research. Now, any measurement done on its own is never reliable. You have to do multiple measurements. If you do clean, pure solution analysis, I'm sorry, it's getting technical. If you do clean solution analysis, one measurement might be it. But an eggshell is an eggshell. It's got calcium carbonate, proteins, everything else in it. So you need to do multiple measurements. Where else do we emphasize multiple measurements? Research. So we wanted to emphasize on all these aspects that usually tie in with research as well. And we came up with the first rubrics for CH101, which is, oh, this is the wrong one. Sorry about the Hina. But essentially, it still gives you a feel of what we had in order to assess our students. Now, we don't have assignments in our chemistry first year course, but we have practicals every week for 8 weeks. Multiply each week, a practical a week, by about 450 to 500 students, to 550 students, you've got well above 4,000 assignments being marked throughout the semester. That's a lot of data. That's a lot of marking. That's a lot of report writing. That's a lot of potential research. So what we felt was, we've done the RSD. We might as well incorporate it right now before A, we forget, and B, it's gonna be with us. It's gonna make it better for the students and us. Let's do it. The sooner the better. And we did this. We had to tone it down a little because we're dealing with first-year students. And as my colleagues have said eloquently, first-year students present a different kettle of fish. They are not used to the university system, most of them. They're adjusting from being away from mom and dad. They're adjusting to a new city. They're adjusting to a new country. Telling them how to write their labs is perhaps not what they would appreciate right then and there. So we had to be really gentle. We had to tiptoe around it. It's very easy to put somebody off science, and trust me, I think we've done it for quite a number of years, and we didn't want to do it again. So we made it simple, and this is what we have. I don't think I'll have time to cover it, so I'm just going to skip over this. But if anybody wants to discuss it with me, I'm happy to take questions after this and at the end. Now, we set the rubrics out. We took a lecture. I took a lecture and explained why we are doing what we are doing. What is the importance of it? Where is it going to leave the student? Then, because it was coming towards the mid-semester break, we felt, all right, we've pushed it onto the students. We have agreed it's nice, but let's see what the students feel. So we put a survey on Moodle, and we told them, A, it's anonymous. B, we might randomly give you prizes for your feedback. And what you're going to say is going to help us make the rubrics better designed and a bit more simple for you to follow. And that's what is going to be the core of what I'm going to discuss, what the students said. Now, before I go into this, I must say of about 400 students on campus at Lodala, we had only 74 responses. We promised them talk time, we promised them everything except mobile phones, and because we didn't have the budget. So we didn't get a very good response profile, but we felt 74 responses is 74 better than none. So off we went. We had a scaling system and a number of questions, 17 in total. The first one we said was, the first question was, I have a complete understanding of the rubrics. Now, this is just to see the general feel. If somebody doesn't understand what we are doing with these RSD rubrics, there's a good chance we'll never get to them. The rubrics are too demanding for us as first-year students. If you ask 10 students, there's a good chance majority of them would say, you know what, just another assessment thing. You're just making it harder and harder for us. They've said it. So maybe adjustment issues are kicking in. Maybe it's just too demanding for them. The third question, the rubrics make writing labs easier. Is it going to make it easier for them as we think it will? Or is it just going to make it easier for the markers? We've had somewhat agreement in the first 3 questions. And it's encouraging, except in the second one, of course. But that's understandable. The 4th question, I generally have difficulty in writing scientific reports. And there's somewhat agreement on that as well. If you have a problem or difficulty in writing reports, rubrics are not there to give you a magic cure. We knew that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch on the most important question that we have here. The rubrics have helped me improve my research and report writing skills to some extent. And that's what had us smiling. So it works for the students. And most importantly, what we did was we flipped through the reports that the students were writing. And some students were writing reports that were better than third-year student reports. And we did not mind saying it to the third-year students to get them to get a bit of a wake-up call. So we have information, not very representative, but yet it's going to help us improve on what we're going to use in our design next year, and hopefully the response and performance will be better. We have a quick view from the academic staff and the markers concerned. The marks, they gave us a mark range of 14 to 18.5. After rubrics incorporation, it went slightly down to 17. But let's not lose sight of the fact, when implementing these skills, the rubrics, our own expectations are rising as well. And we don't mind the 17, but we appreciate the 15. So we feel it's a general improvement. The report writing skills was enhanced apparently. Some students wrote quite brilliantly, which is very, very encouraging. But critical thinking and discussion of results we need to still build on. And this is work in progress. Right, I'm just going to leave it at that. Thanks.
Good morning to you all. I'm Hina from the Research Office. I would now like to present on the conclusions and the way forward from this presentation. What we have seen is that the same RSD framework has been used to develop marking rubrics in 4 different disciplines and therefore provide a common platform for assessing research, literacy and skills in the different disciplines. Now, we have seen a number of benefits and advantages being reported, and the first one, which has come out quite strongly, is that the RSD framework has allowed for explicit articulation of research components and research literacy and skills that were not actually assessed previously in the courses. We have also seen that the RSD-based marking rubrics has allowed for explicit communication of marking guidelines to students. MG 101 has actually reported more consistent marking across assignments, as well as a reduction in marking time. Similarly, we have noted the same outputs or outcomes for ED 153. And we have seen that RSD marking rubrics have allowed for assessment of other USB graduate outcomes. So a number of graduate outcomes have been assessed in the same assignment using the same marking rubric. The challenges, the first challenge is in defrosting the RSD facets to students. Students find it difficult to understand the RSD facets when it's introduced to them the first time. And so we need to really work on relating these facets to students and relating these to the marking criteria that we give them. Secondly, it's the wording in the rubrics. We still need to work on a couple of rubrics, and that's the UU 204 and MG 101 to simplify this for the students. So the recommendations that we have to move forward are, 1, to gradually introduce assessment of the to gradually introduce the RSD facets and assess this right from the beginning of the semester. This will allow students some time to get familiar with the RSD facets and the marking schemes. Secondly, we will work further on defrosting of the RSD facets. We would like to suggest that more time be given in the tutorials to defrost RSD facets to students. We will also simplify and fine-tune our marking rubrics. We are planning for further workshops for staff to be able to integrate RSD in their marking schemes. We will also expand on the monitoring and evaluation process that's currently underway as we progress on implementation. Moving forward, we are going to use the assessments at the 100 level as a baseline to develop assessments in the second year and the third year courses to enhance student level of autonomy in research. That's the presentation part from our team today. We now invite for comments and questions from the floor. Thank you.